The man wanted to buy a decent weapon with 2 silver coins, but the shop owner mocked him, saying that amount of money could only get him some junk from the barrel over there. The man ignored the owner's sarcasm and used appraisal on each weapon in the barrel. As expected, every single one had 0 durability and 0 strength. Just as he was about to give up, a black, worn sword with a strange design caught his eye. Before he could even use appraisal, something bizarre happened. The man thought he was dreaming and immediately used appraisal on the old sword.
決して損はさせない。俺様を買え暴食。
なんで知ってるんだ。
俺とお前は同類だからさ。
同類。
The moment he heard the word same kind, he instantly recalled the strange incident from last night. Jack was a bottom tier nobody barely scraping by in society. His talent skill, gluttony, was completely useless. Aside from making him constantly hungry, his level and stats were both a pitiful one. Despite dreaming of becoming a warrior, he couldn't even handle something as simple as hunting goblins. All he could do was earn a few copper coins by guarding the city gate for 3 holy knights. These 3 siblings were extremely talented but arrogant and cruel. Every time they paid Jack, they made sure to humiliate him first, and even used him as a living punching bag for fun. A female holy knight named Roxy couldn't stand their behavior, and often stepped in to help Jack. Jack treated her like a goddess, but precisely because of that, he didn't want to drag Roxy down because of himself, so he chose to endure all the humiliation alone. Some people worried Jack would end up being beaten to death like the previous gate guard, but Jack had no choice. One night on his way home from the tavern, Jack accidentally discovered invading thieves. He immediately reported it to Roxy. Roxy told Jack to guard the gate, while she went alone to chase the thieves. After hearing the sounds of battle, Jack thought Roxy had taken care of it, but then a wounded thief suddenly ran toward him. Jack instinctively wanted to flee, but not wanting to cause trouble for Roxy, he finally found his courage. One thrust of his spear killed the thief instantly, and that was when something miraculous happened. Jack's gluttony skill awakened, though his level was still 1. His stats skyrocketed 100-fold, and he gained appraisal and mind reading. Before Jack could even process what was happening, Roxy ran over and held his hands with concern. At that moment, Jack strangely heard Roxy's thoughts.
なんだか顔色が悪い。心配だわ。
But for some reason, they vanished the next second. Roxy thanked Jack for providing the information, otherwise she would have been blamed if the thieves succeeded. To show her gratitude, she suggested Jack work for her family. Jack was thrilled to hear this, but then worried the Breliker siblings would target him and Roxy. Roxy assured him she would handle it. Only then did Jack accept her invitation. Back at his place, Jack was filled with anticipation about the awakening of his gluttony skill. Maybe this time, he could really become the warrior he dreamed of. Early the next morning, he excitedly ran to the blacksmith to buy a proper weapon, and that led to the scene at the beginning. After hearing Jack had switched jobs, the Breliker siblings were furious, but due to the Hart family's status as one of the kingdom's 5 great noble houses, they chose to turn a blind eye. After obtaining the greed sword, the first thing Jack did was test it on goblins. One swing killed a goblin instantly, and his gluttony skill activated again. He learned the stamina enhancement skill. Jack was ecstatic. He felt as though an infinite future lay ahead of him. He slaughtered goblins all night without rest, his stats jumping from 100 to over 1000, and he also learned physical endurance enhancement. For the first time, he didn't feel hungry. Greed explained that normal people gain levels from killing monsters, but gluttony steals the enemy's stats and skills without granting experience. That meant Jack would remain level 1 forever, but his stats would grow crazily with every enemy defeated. Gluttony was a skill that overturned the laws of the gods, so Jack must never let others discover it. Otherwise he'd invite endless trouble. Killing 38 goblins earned Jack 3.8 silver coins, more than he'd made in 2 years as a gate guard combined. He was about to treat himself to roasted meat, something he hadn't eaten in 5 years, when a man suddenly knocked him over in an alley. The man looked vicious and was dragging a little girl. The girl was too terrified to speak, but with mind reading, Jack clearly heard her screaming for help. Jack immediately used appraisal on the man. His stats showed he was trained, and worse, his talent skill was hidden. Even though Jack's stats were higher, he didn't dare act recklessly without knowing the man's trump card. Greed asked Jack what he planned to do. Jack followed the man to an abandoned warehouse. From the man's words, he learned the girl was to be sold to a holy knight as a plaything. The girl had already broken down in tears. Greed advised Jack not to get involved, but her situation struck a chord with him. He knew all too well what it felt like to be bullied. This was something he couldn't ignore. Appraisal showed their stats were close, but the enemy's hidden skill made things dangerous. One mistake could mean death. Just as the inexperienced Jack hesitated, Greed suggested using the environment for a sneak attack. Jack followed the advice, but the opponent was alert, and the attack wasn't fatal. When the man's hand began to glow, Jack realized it was a combat skill. This kind of opponent had a huge advantage in battle, yet Greed told him to confront the enemy head-on. Confused but trusting the sword, Jack obeyed. With a single ordinary strike, without any combat skill, he performed a one-hit kill. Clearly, this weapon was no ordinary sword. Even undeveloped, it far surpassed others. Under interrogation, Jack learned the one behind this was actually a holy knight, one of the 3 powerful figures who always looked down on him. That knight had some unspeakable private tastes, but even knowing this, Jack couldn't do anything yet. His priority was to grow stronger. After escorting the girl home, Jack finally checked his status panel. Only then did he realize, not only had his stats stats increased. He'd also gained the skill sharp blade agility. Greed explained it allowed him to strike twice in one action. Only then did Jack feel lingering fear. Had he known the risk was this high, he wouldn't have played the hero. His desire to become stronger only grew. But the next day was his first day working for Roxy's family, so he had no choice but to report in. Ever since gluttony awakened, Jack had quit his gate guard job and agreed to work for Roxy. Though monster hunting alone now earned him money, he didn't want to give up the chance to grow closer to his goddess. Before they could even get to business, Jack suddenly felt a wave of hunger, even though he had eaten properly. The next moment, he collapsed. When he came to, he was already back home. Seeing the letter on the table, he realized Roxy had sent him back. Greed then explained what had happened. Once gluttony awakens, normal food is no longer enough. Jack had to kill every single day, or else he would either starve or turn into a mindless monster. When hunger reached a certain point, it manifested in the eyes, a temporary power created by gluttony. To more efficiently devour souls, Jack gained night vision and could immobilize weaker enemies. He felt this deeply. Goblins that once took effort to kill now stood frozen, waiting to be slaughtered. As his stats rose, his hunger gradually eased, but it still wasn't enough. Low-level goblins could no longer satisfy him, so he ventured deeper into the forest to hunt higher-tier goblins. They posed no threat to him now. After killing countless numbers, he finally felt full, but then a sound nearby caught his attention. A goblin king appeared, with 5-digit stats, and even a healing skill. Over the course of a single night, Jack's stats rose to match it. He coveted that healing ability, and decided to hunt the goblin king. He watched coldly as it devoured a human, waiting for the moment it let its guard down. Then he launched his ambush, with the first strike landing, and greed in hand. Jack quickly found its weakness, and killed the powerful foe. At the moment the battle ended, his stats skyrocketed to 40,000, and he gained the healing skill. As Jack prepared to rest, Greed told him his stats were enough to unlock the first tier, at the cost of all his current stats. Others might hesitate, but Jack didn't even pause. He already regarded Greed as his master. The moment he agreed, his power began draining away. After some time, a new form of power emerged. Greed had unlocked its magic bow form. Before Jack could ask what changed, Greed told him there was a perfect chance to test it. A goblin had been spying on them the whole time. Jack didn't need to worry about lacking arrows. They would appear naturally when he drew the bow.
適当に放っても勝手に当たる初心者のベッドでも安心の仕様だ
After Jack single-handedly wiped out the Goblin tribe and left the Goblin King's ears at the orphanage door, two rumors spread. One claimed a powerful and compassionate warrior had arrived in the capital. The other said a brutally violent wandering monster roamed nearby. Upon hearing this, the Holy Knight Roxy disguised herself to gather information in the city. Her outfit was so ordinary, Jack mistook her for a burglar. After clearing up the misunderstanding, Roxy decided to bring Jack along. On the way, Greed kept teasing them, nearly making Jack start a fight with his own sword twice. As soon as they entered the market, a commotion erupted. People parted to either side of the street, staring in terror at someone approaching, more fearful than if they'd seen a monster. Looking closer, it was a red-haired holy knight, his arrogant demeanor instantly repulsive. When the red-haired knight passed Jack, Jack's stomach growled loudly.
グッドタイミングだな
The knight thought Jack was mocking him, and stormed over in fury. Wanting no trouble, Jack immediately knelt to apologize, but the knight wasn't satisfied, and raised his foot to strike. At the critical moment, Roxy stepped in to stop him. The knight was shocked someone dared oppose him, and turned angrily, only to find the woman before him looked familiar. Someone in the crowd recognized Roxy, as her identity was about to be exposed. Greed suggested Jack and Roxy pretend to be lovers. The two awkwardly acted it out in front of everyone, grossing out the onlookers, who quickly dispersed. The crisis passed, for now, but Jack unexpectedly heard Roxy's thoughts.
この人と腕を組むの初めて。まだドキドキしてる。
すみません俺
あ、いいえ、全然大したことじゃありません。慣れてますから。さあ行きましょう。レッツゴーです。
People everywhere were discussing the mysterious warrior and the wandering monster. Roxy gathered information for a long time, but found nothing useful, believing a warrior might know more. Only then did Jack realize both the mysterious warrior and the wandering monster were him.